The goal of this video is to show you how to write Essay 1 and to give you some ideas for how to organize your points. The first thing I want to point out is the MLA structure for the page setup. So I've inserted a page number here up in the header and then typed my last name with a space here so that this will appear on every page and the page numbers will go up as you go. Sometimes people do this and then it says page 1 on every page. So if you insert it as a page number and then type your last name, it will show up on every page. The second part of MLA format is your heading here with your name, your professor's name, your course, and the date. Typically it's the date that the assignment is due, and you want to use this format. Notice also that my whole page is double spaced, and I don't skip any extra spaces between the heading and the title, between the title and the paragraph, nor between paragraphs. So you just want the whole page to be double spaced with no extra spacing on the page at all. First thing, I have a title here. So you want to make sure that you do have your own title and try to be creative with it. Try to come up with something other than Essay 1 or Compare Contrast Essay. I focus on the idea of one voice making a difference in my paper, so I decided to call my essay One Voice Can Make a Difference. So try to come up with a title that would, make someone want to read it. All right. When I start the essay, I'm going to start my introduction with a hook or an introductory strategy, something to draw the reader into the essay. So this goes, it starts here and it goes to about here. And this is sort of the way that I'm trying to get people interested in my paper. I start with a quotation that I found. It's not from the article that we read, it's just a quotation I found on the internet. And if it is a famous quotation, you don't need to cite it, but you do need to give the name of the person who wrote it. So Martin Luther King Jr. once wrote, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." I thought this was really fitting for both writers in this essay. So I open with this quotation. Notice I do have a signal phrase here. And then I explain a little bit about it. I talk about Martin Luther King making a difference, speaking up, the time period. I talk about how he's still influencing people through his words. He refused to let people silence him. He took a lot of courage. Then I connect it to the world. Throughout the history of our world, individuals have stood up to tyranny with one voice, and these small acts of courage have led to much social change in the world, right? So then what I'm going to do is give a brief summary of both texts. So King's voice helped advocate for African American rights during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. Here I'm giving some context. Then I go into the summary. Remember, we have a signal phrase for the beginning of a summary. In an excerpt from his book Stride Toward Freedom, Martin Luther King Jr.'s ways of meeting oppression encourages his audience to, and then give a 1 to 2 sentence summary of his article, followed by the page numbers here. Notice that the period comes after the citation instead of before it. And when you're doing your summary, make sure you're following those rules, like not using any words from the text and just pointing out the main points. Then I switch, right? Another instance, it's a signal that I'm moving on to someone else, and I give some context here about Jonathan Swift, 1720s, Ireland, what was going on, the British rule, and then I go into a summary here. In his pamphlet, A Modest Proposal, Jonathan Swift, give a good verb and fill in a 1 to 2 sentence summary, follow it up with the page numbers. I want you guys to come up with your own hook and your ideas, but if you want to use these signal phrases that I've put in here, you're welcome to steal those. So like this signal phrase and this signal phrase. That way you know that you're on the right track with the beginnings of your summaries. All right, so after I give the summaries, it's time to get into the main point of the paper. These two examples from different circumstances and time periods illustrate how a single voice can make an impact on a country, right? So I'm emphasizing that main idea that I started with again. And then here is my thesis. Overall, King and Swift both fight for social justice by writing passionate calls to action. However, the rhetoric and style of their arguments differ. This is going to not only tell you that this is a compare-contrast essay and my main point, it's also going to show you how I'm breaking down the paper. So I'm going to start with a paragraph talking about they both fight for social justice by writing passionate calls to action. And then in the latter part of my paper, I'm going to talk about how the rhetoric and the style of their arguments differ. Okay, so I'll have probably a paragraph for this and a paragraph for this. And you can have more paragraphs than that. You could have, figure out how many points you want to make and then design your paper accordingly. So this is my introduction. It might be longer than introductions you're used to, but when we do get into like a 4 to 6 page paper, it's okay to explain a little bit more in your introduction so your readers know where you're coming from. All right, on to the second page. Also, your introduction does not have to be this long, but if you include all the things that you need, it's likely to be longer than maybe what you're used to. All right. This is my first body paragraph. I know this because I'm using a transitional word here to switch into the paragraph. It's always good to open with a word like this to show kind of what you're doing. So foremost, here's my topic sentence. So you want to make sure this matches with the thesis statement. So here I have the thesis statement, right? Overall, King and Swift both fight for social justice by writing passionate calls to action. So here is my topic sentence for that first one. Both King and Swift have a common goal to move people to action through a passionate written appeal. Not the exact same words, but it's the same point. All right, so I open with the topic sentence, and then what I'm going to do is introduce an example from King. In Ways of Meeting Oppression, King urges people to wake up from complacency. Then I give a quotation by him, and then you don't want to stop there. Okay, so after you give the quotation, you want to explain how this relates to him having a goal to move people to action through a passionate written appeal. So I want to explain how this makes my point. This statement accuses those who are not part of the civil rights fight of subjugated their own people through inaction. So you want to emphasize here that this has something to do with the main point. He puts passive people on the same level as those who are harassing African Americans. The audacity of this statement encourages people to wake up to their part in the struggle and realize they can make a small difference by refusing repression. So here I'm talking about how his statement was a little bit shocking, right? And it woke people up. It made people want to do something because they didn't want to be accused of that. Then I bring up another point. Throughout his writing, King gives people ways to resist without violence and encourages doing the right thing. Then here he says, nobility, right? To rise to the noble height of opposing the unjust system while loving the perpetrators of the system. Here again, after I give this quotation, I introduce it with a signal phrase. I then follow it with some analysis relating it to the main point of the paragraph so that I don't go off topic. By using language, King appeals to everyone's morality while encouraging people to take action. So I keep emphasizing this point. He wants people to take action. All right. So I've given all of my information for King. This is the point-by-point organization, right? I have this main similarity. I've given my research and my points for King. Now I'm going to switch. To mark the switch, I have a transition that shows that this is a similarity. So you want to make sure that you're shifting here. You can look up these transitional words. There's a ton that mean similarly. Likewise, if you want to say a difference, you can say on the other hand, however. There are words that show this shift. Similarly, Jonathan Swift utilizes passionate language to incite fellow Irishmen to fight against the crown. You see again, I'm using this language and this main point from the topic sentence to stay focused on that single point that I'm making. This whole paragraph is just developing that one similarity. Most notably, near the end of his argument, Swift describes all the possible things people could do to create change, but yet they are doing nothing. So here I give a little bit of a summary of what he does, and then I quote part of it. He begins, I can think of no one objection that will possibly raised against this proposal. and then goes on to list possible actions, including not relying on imported goods from Britain, coming together with pride for Ireland, and helping each other with empathy. So here I'm paraphrasing sections from page, this is all from page 554, the summary, the quotation, and the paraphrase. Give the page number here. Through his sarcasm, his passion and frustration with his own people shines through. So this is where I'm emphasizing that he's really passionate about this, and I'm relating that back to my main point, right? Passionate language. Through his sarcasm, his passion, oh, I already read that, sorry. Then I continue, I introduce another point. He emphasizes, let no man talk to me of these till he hath at least some glimpse of hope that there will ever be some hearty and sincere attempt to put them into practice. So he's mad here because there are tons of things that people could be doing, but none of them are doing them. You notice that I did take out part of the quotation in the middle, and I've put an ellipses here to note that I did take some of it out. And I've cited the page number here. Similar to King, Swift tries to awaken Irish citizens to their complacency and inaction. So here I'm emphasizing how this relates to my topic. And then at the end of the paragraph, I have this one sentence that pulls it all together. Both writers face a similar despairing audience and seek to provoke them into action. All right, so if you follow this model for every paragraph, do it 2, 3, 4 times, you will have an essay. Work on sort of whatever you're doing with, you have this signal phrase, you have a quotation, paraphrase, whatever, and then after you explain how that relates to your main point. That's the most important thing. Okay, so I do have a note here that this is just the introduction, one body paragraph, and a works cited page, and you'll have more in your essay. And I have the works cited page here. This is what you need to have in your paper. It's absolutely fine for you to copy and paste this into your paper. Just make sure that you don't have my name in the corner. And in future papers, I'll have you write your own works cited page, but I just want you to get the feel of it, and I want you to have this in your paper. All right. I hope this helps as you start to draft Essay 1. If you have any questions, let me know. Just try to follow this template that I've created for you. All right, have a good week, everyone.